Hello, welcome to this week's edition of MMA News. One more, please. And today, I'm gonna review UFC 152. Then we're gonna start talk about the events that are going on this week. Now, UFC 152, pretty good fight, or not a fight, where you had Cub Swanson knock out Charles Oliveira. It was a pretty good knockout. Then you had Hamill in not his best performance. Beat Roger Hollett. There were several points where I thought Hamill could definitely finish the fight, but maybe he's going through some ring rust. I'm not quite sure, so we'll have to see in his coming fights whether that was just a fluke or not. But anyways, then in what was probably a contender fight, you had Michael Bisping go against Brian Stann. Surprisingly, Bisping did a lot of grappling, which is very bold considering that he's usually a kickboxer. He's usually a striker. So for him to have, gone in there and did what he did, that was, I was a little impressed. But anyways, Brian Stann's always had trouble against people who know how to grapple. That's been his Achilles heel. So that's basically what happened in this fight. He didn't know what to do. So then for the inaugural flyweight title, we have Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson go against Joseph Benavidez. And it was a close fight. They went at it for all 5 rounds. Ultimately, I think part of the fact that Johnson came out with a better looking face than Benavidez may have played into the win. But anyways, Mighty Mouse made history, and he is now the UFC flyweight champion. So, obviously, he's got to set the tempo as, the first champ in history at his weight class. So, then at light heavyweight, we had the main event, John Jones versus Vitor Belfort. And you had... He had a valiant fight by Belfort, who got Jones in a very good submission in the first round, but it obviously wasn't enough to submit him or have the refs stop him. But anyways, Jones went in, and then you see he finally got Americana in the 4th round. So that is... And with that being said, Jones is now the... Belfort is champ number 5 that Jones has beat. Jones went in there, he massacred people through the light heavyweight division. And now for 5 fights in a row, he's gone against former UFC light heavyweight champions, and he's beat him rather soundly. It started when he went against Shogun for the title. He beat him, won via TKO. Then he went against Rampage, submitted him, choked out Yota Machida standing, and fought Rashad Evans to the distance, dominated him the whole time, and then now here he is. He just beat Belfort. Now, on taps, it's either going to be Yota Machida or Dan Henderson, one of the two. But this is he's looking he's looking pretty strong. And something else to note is the fact that he's only the fifth. Actually, no. He's only the fourth man in UFC history, or in the light heavyweight division, to defend the belt 4 times. The first was Frank Shamrock. The next, who was actually there 5 times, was Tito Ortiz. And then you had Chuck Liddell, and then you had this string of. After Chuck, you had this string of champions where they would win it and then lose it rather quickly in succession. And so this is of note, is that Jones is, he established himself as the youngest fighter in UFC history, or youngest champion, and now here he is. He's already setting himself up for possibly being one of the best fighters in the history of the UFC. There's talks about maybe, Silva doing, him doing a super fight with Silva. That would probably be one of the last fights of Silva's career. He's getting old, so yeah, but that was that's how that all went about. So yeah, it was a good fight card. So before anything else, though, I'd like to go over the news of the cancellation of Strikeforce Melendez versus Healy. Gilbert Melendez received an injury, and basically before anything could be arranged, Showtime decided they weren't going to carry the card because they decided it was worth it. So there was talks about how before it was cut, they were trying to make a interim bout between Thompson and Healy, but it didn't happen. They ended up pulling the card altogether, and in a move that was not that was in stark contrast to the UFC 151 cancellation, they actually paid the fighters. I guess that would probably be fair, considering that UFC there was obviously enough fights lined up to where you could just shift them all around, which they have. They shifted them all around. The fighters are eventually going to fight. Strikeforce doesn't have that luxury anymore. If a fight card is canceled, then these guys probably aren't going to be fighting for months. So the card got canceled, so they're not fighting. And I think it would have been smarter if you moved some of the fighters. Maybe some of them will be fighting in the fight card that was known as Cormier versus Mir. Won't be, because Mir has an injury. I'm sure we will see some of those fights, but that's just how things rolled out. So, two things to go over. Is the UFC on Fuel TV fight card Struve versus miocic. Now, obviously this worked out, but my big question was, why are you going to put a fight card on Fuel TV the same night that you're putting on a fight card on Showtime? Now why are two promotions that are in the same parent company basically competing for audiences? I don't understand that. But there's a lot of things that Dana White has done that does not make sense to me. So that's just how that's gonna go. But anyway, so obviously it worked out. So on this fight card, you have on the main card, you have Che Mills versus Dwayne Ludwig. Ludwig's a veteran. Che Mills is on the rise. And I don't know who Paul Sass is. This is in England, so there's a lot of English fighters. I don't know who Paul Sass is, but Matt Wyman, he's been around, so we kind of know who he is. Brad Pickett, I kind of know who he is. And then you have Yves Jaboin from Haiti. Then welterweight, that was welterweight, lightweight, bantamweight. Then another welterweight fight, you have John Hathaway versus John McGuire. I kind of know those guys. Obviously, there's a reason why this is these guys on the fight card, they're not that well known. Then you have Dan Hardy going against Amir Sadallah. Now, of course, we know Dan Hardy. He kind of hit on hard times after he lost in his title shot against GSP. Amir Sadallah, since he's won the Ultimate Fighter, has kind of been struggling. Or no, he didn't. Yeah, since he won the Ultimate Fighter, he's kind of been struggling. He's at welterweight, and he's struggling, and this is one of those fights where he needs to win if he wants to stay in the UFC. Ultimate Fighter contestants, they win, but they're guaranteed a contract as long as they keep winning. If they don't keep winning, then they'll get cut. Like, obviously, examples being Travis Lutter, Ephraim Escudero, Kendall Grove, just people like that. It unfortunately happens. This is a business. You need to win if you want to stay in, if you want to be employed. And if you don't deliver, then that's how things happen. But anyways, and then the main event, you have the skyscraper Stefan Struve versus Stipe Miocic. As we know, Struve has lost to some high-profile guys, but he's established himself in the UFC. He's probably about the height of Tim Sylvia, and he's this tall guy. He's kind of a little bit skinnier, unlike Sylvia, who had to struggle to make weight. And he's been, ever since he got cut from the UFC, he's been fighting some fights at super heavyweight. Here Struve is, who's about 240-ish, and he's as tall as he is. He's actually a pretty good fighter. He's just had some losses against people that I think eventually he might be able to build into title contention, but that's not happening right now. So yeah, and then on Friday, that's Saturday, and then on Friday you have Bellator 74, and that is the welterweight tournament that's going. That's the welterweight tournament that's going to be kicking off. So you're going to... notables in this tournament, you have former champ Lyman Good, prospect Jim, and Wallhead, they're going against each other. And then you also have Marius Zamaskis, who's the former Dream welterweight champ. And some other people. So anyways, that's it. I will see you next week.